Hello, and welcome to Simple Man Sermons, the preachings of a simple man called by God to share the good news of Jesus Christ. Today's sermon is going to come primarily inspired by Romans 8. For you have not received the spirit of bondage again to fear. Now it seems like now is a time, especially, where so much in society, so much in the world is predicated on fear. Seems like culture, society, whomever is always trying to trigger you with fear. Fear of a pandemic, fear of a virus, fear of war, fear of famine, fear of whatever. When the fear of one thing is worn off, fear of getting a virus, they switch to fear of, some foreign invader, some foreign nation they tout as being evil to keep you in fear. Whether it's to keep you watching their programming, or to get you to buy something, get you to pay attention to them. It seems like the whole world is spiraling in fear. Not you and not me. Is it not written to be a friend of the world is to be at enmity with God? You'll find that in James. To be a friend of the world is to be at enmity with God. Now, if you're listening to this, surely you and I agree, I hope, that we don't want to be in enmity with God. For we have not received the spirit of bondage again to fear, but the spirit of adoption, whereby we cry, Abba, Father. The whole world could be wallowing around in fear, living in fear, but not us. We're called to be different, to be set apart. For it is written many times, Be ye holy, for I am holy. Set apart. You are God's own special people, a holy nation, a royal priesthood. You are called to be different, be set apart, to be a light to shine bright in a dark world, a world that's full of fear, a world that's constantly trying to make you afraid of something, worried, anxious about something. You're called to be holy. You're called to be different. Now, I haven't verified this for myself, so by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses, a matter is established. But I've heard it said that there's 365 times in the Bible, do not be afraid. Probably means it's important. If it's anywhere close to that number, it's important. The one thing we're supposed to fear as Christians is fear of God, a healthy reverence and fear of our Lord, our Creator, our Maker, the Sustainer of the universe. And that is the only thing in the Bible you'll see that we as Christians are called to fear. How much better than the world, who's afraid of everything, jumping at their own shadows. You're called to shine brighter than that, to be a light in the world. Do not be afraid of those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. Rather be afraid of the one who can destroy both the soul and the body in hell. That's Jesus, the words of Jesus in Matthew 10. Jesus talks many times about worry, anxiety, and fear. Do not worry about what you will eat. Do not worry about what you will wear, the clothing you'll put on. Jesus talks about that. Jesus talks about fear. Keep in mind, Jesus talks about great trials, great tribulations, the end times. He talks about the disciples being persecuted and put to death. And then he says, do not be afraid. If you've ever been a soldier or marine, as I have, you'll know that it's important to study your enemy. What is written about Satan? He is a liar and the father of it. He likes to use half-truths just like he did in the garden with Eve. The truth is, those things may kill you. Viruses, war. I've certainly been to war. I've certainly seen it. I've certainly felt the loss that war can bring at a very personal level. But don't be afraid of it, because Satan loves us to have truths. Here's the thing. You're going to die. I'm going to die. We are all going to die unless Jesus comes back right now in our lifetime. We are all, our bodies, that is, are all going to see death. So Satan's running around trying to make us to be in fear of things that don't even really matter. It is written, we are strangers and pilgrims on the earth. It is also written that this body of ours is a tent. It's a temporary dwelling. So what are you afraid of, and why are you afraid? For you have not received the spirit of bondage again to fear, but the spirit of adoption, whereby we cry, Abba, Father. Why is this imperative in the Christian walk? Because fear and faith are at opposite ends of the spectrum. The closer you grow to one, the further you get away from the other. If you fully have faith and trust in God that He will provide all your needs and take care of you, and He has you in His hands, and you trust Him like a loving Father, then you are not afraid. The more you are afraid, the less you are trusting in the Father. A verse comes to mind. Let us ponder Revelation 21. He that overcometh shall inherit all things, and I will be his God, and he shall be my son. But the fearful and unbelieving, and the abominable, and murderers, and whoremongers, and sorcerers, and idolaters, and all liars, shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. Let me read that again and notice where the separation starts for those who will be in an eternal lake of fire. But he that overcometh shall inherit all things, and I will be his God, and he shall be my son. But the fearful and unbelieving, and the abominable, and murderers, and whoremongers, and sorcerers, and idolaters, and liars, shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. The first two things he lists there for those who will burn in a lake of fire. In fact, the number one is fearful. Fearful and then unbelieving. Again, I would submit to you that faith and fear are at opposite ends of the spectrum. Isn't it not written, without faith it is impossible, not unlikely, not hard, without faith it is impossible to please God. If faith and fear are at opposite ends of the spectrum, if you fully trust in God, to what is there to be afraid? Why do you fear what will happen, what man can do to your body, or what things could happen? If you trust fully in God, what is there to be afraid of? It also calls to mind a verse. Do you not know you are a slave to those things that you obey? You find that passage in Romans chapter 6. Do you know that when you offer yourselves to someone as obedient slaves, you are slaves of the one you obey, whether you are slaves to sin, which leads to death, or to obedience, which leads to righteousness? You are a slave to those things to which you obey. Don't be a slave to sin. Don't be a slave to fear. I am a slave, a servant of God. Or a slave to those things to which you obey. I don't know about you, but I want to obey God. I don't want to obey fear. Now let me caveat this with, I'm not telling you to not be prepared. Jesus says many times, watch and be ready. Watch and be ready, for you don't know the day or the hour. God had Noah build an ark. Wherein there was recorded that Noah was afraid, but he still prepared. Jesus tells his disciples, these are the words of Jesus, then he said unto them, but now, he that hath a purse, let him take it, and likewise his scrip. And he that has no sword, let him sell his garment and buy one. There's no contradiction between being ready, being prepared, and not living in fear. In fact, I would submit that they go together. Jesus calls us to watch and be ready. Watch and be ready. He talks of great trials and tribulations, and telling us about them, and that they will come, that we will see wars and rumors of wars and famine and pestilence. He's already told us these things. He is an all-knowing God. Shouldn't that make us not afraid of these things? For he tells us that they are coming, and he says, do not be afraid. He tells us to watch and be ready, and he tells us to not be afraid. So let's do what Jesus says. Let's be ready for as much as we can be. For even Jesus himself says, no one knows the day or the hour. But let us not be afraid. For it is written, I will not be afraid. What can man do to me? So I'll restate again, when the whole world is running around in fear, rampant, panicking, always be ready to give an account for the hope that is in you, for the light that is shining bright in you. Be different. Be set apart. Be ye holy, for I am holy. If the whole world is freaking out in fear, you be calm and steady, because you have a rock, a firm foundation that can't be shaken by a germ, or by a war, or by rumors of war, or by a coming famine. For God feeds the birds of the air. Are you not of much more value than many sparrows? Trust in God, He will take care of you. Again, have faith. Turn away from fear and to faith. For it is written, there is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. It is also written, very simply, very plainly, God is love. 1 John 4 again, there is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear. Also 1 John 4, God is love. So if you are in God, if you are in love, there will be no fear. There is no fear in love. God is love. There is no fear in God. How could you deduce anything else from those scriptures? Go to God. Submit to God. Resist the devil and he will flee from you. Draw near to God and he will draw near to you. Cleanse your hands, you sinners. If you need to escape fear, if you're feeling fear, you need to get away from it. Run to God. His arms are open wide. Go to God. God is love. If you want to get away from fear, go to God. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. It is God and God alone who can cast out your fear. That's why the world is so afraid. They don't have God, but you have God. Again, the verse we started with. For you have not received the spirit of bondage again to fear, but the spirit of adoption whereby we cry, Abba, Father. Adopted, who were once not a people, but now are children of God. Adopted as sons. If God is your protector, if God is your Father who is almighty, who controls everything, if He is your Father, if you trust in Him, if you are His son or daughter, what do you have to fear? The only thing you're called to fear in the Bible is God Himself. Don't put anything else on a level playing field with God. He is far above all principalities and powers. God alone. You have not received the spirit of bondage again to fear, but the spirit of adoption whereby we cry, Abba, Father. A few other places you can see in Scripture. Psalm 34, I sought the Lord, and He answered me and delivered me from all my fears. Deuteronomy 31, the Lord Himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. Hebrews 13. So we say with confidence, the Lord is my helper. I will not be afraid. What can mortals do to me? As a father has compassion on his children, so the Lord has compassion on those who fear Him. Psalm 103. Psalm 27. Though an army besiege me, my heart will not fear. Though war break out against me, even then I will be confident. Psalm 27. And let us recount one that by God's grace I do and hope to continue to read every morning. Psalm 91. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say to the Lord, You are my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I will trust. Surely you shall deliver me from the snare of the fowler and from the perilous pestilence. You shall cover me with your feathers, and under your wings shall I take refuge. Your truth shall be my shield and buckler. I shall not be afraid of the terror by night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that walks in darkness, nor the destruction that lays waste at noonday. 1,000 may fall at my side, 10,000 at my right hand, but it shall not come near me. Only with my eyes shall I look and see the reward of the wicked, because I have made the Lord, who is my refuge, even the Most High, my dwelling place. No evil shall befall me, nor shall any plague come near my dwelling. For you shall give your angels charge over me to keep me in all my ways. In their hands they shall bear me up, lest I dash my foot against a stone. I shall tread upon the lion and the cobra, the young lion and the serpent I shall trample under foot. Because I set my love upon you, therefore you deliver me. You set me on high, because I have known your name. I call upon you, and you answer me. You be with me in trouble. You deliver me and honor me. With long life you satisfy me, and show me your salvation. That psalm is as true today as it was in the days of David. Think about the comfort of that psalm. No wonder the world is in fear without God. The psalm says we call upon him and he answers us. Again, if you have God, the creator, the sustainer, the almighty, all-powerful, God most high, fighting for you, do not be afraid. Again, you have not received the spirit of bondage again to fear. So don't submit to it. Don't give in to it. Be different. Be strong. Be courageous. Live a bold, courageous life of faith. Be with God in love and not fear. With that, I want to say thanks for listening to Simple Man Sermons. And have a blessed day.